we are moving to the administration of a Mauryan Empire. This is also one of the important aspect in syllabus as well as in the Mauryan history. Central administration. King was the supreme authority and his throne was hereditary, as we know from Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, and from Bindusaras to the Ashoka. So from that itself, we can understand the throne was hereditary. And king was the supreme judge and the supreme commander of the armed force. King was assisted by council of ministers. This is known as Mandri Parishad, headed by the prime minister. Prime minister was the head of the Mandri Parishad, and prime minister or king was assisted by the council of ministers for their administrative convenience. Each minister was responsible for his department. Other officers who assisted the Council of Ministers included the chief pujari of the state called Purohit. Senapati advised the king on matters relating to war and peace. Sanidatta was the taxation expert. So, along with the Council of Ministers, these many people or the officials included in that. The chief pujari of the state called Purohit and Senapati advised the king on the matters of war and peace, and Sanidatta was considered as the taxation expert. Ashoka took periodical tours of the kingdom by himself and brought about small changes in the administrative system and appointed Mahamatras. Mahamatras were known as the governors to look after the welfare of his subjects. For a centralized administration, king was the supreme authority, and for the administrative convenience, it was divided. The kingdom was divided into different provinces, and this province he was assisted by. For the administrative convenience, king was assisted by the council of ministers that was known as Mandri Parishad, and the prime minister was the head of this Mandri Parishad, and each ministers were responsible for different departments. And Ashoka took periodical tours of the kingdom by himself and brought about small changes in administrative system, and he appointed Mahamatras. They were known as the governors to look after the welfare of his. There are two divisions in a Mauryan administration. The first one we have seen the central administration. Next we are moving to the provincial administration. During Chandragupta's reign, there were four provinces. This province's name also important: Magadha, Gandhara, Avanti, and South Province. The capital also mentioned here. You can learn that. So Magadha was directly under the control of the central government. Because of what reason? Magadha was considered as the capital for this Mauryan Empire. So it was directly under the control of the central government, and provinces were headed by Kumaras, or they were known as Aryaputra, and they were generally the prince of the royal family. So these provinces were taken care by the Aryaputra or the Kumaras, but the Magadha's case was different. It was directly under the control of the central government. These points all comes under the provincial administration because it is related to the different provinces. And provinces were during the Ashoka's reign, the Kumaras were assisted by the governors. In the central administration also, we have seen their role of Mahamatas. Beside the Mahamatras, other officials like Pradeshika collected tax. Rajuka performed the function of modern day Tehsildar or revenue officer, and Yukta was the treasurer. If we connect these positions to the contemporary history, we can easily identify these type of officers are present in our society also, in our contemporary society also. We can connect this particular position. So these are the points related to the provincial administration, and there are four provinces. Magadha was directly under the control of the central government, and provinces were headed by the Kumaras or Aryaputras. And during Ashoka's reign, Kumaras were associated by or assisted by the governors, and there were so many other officials for collecting the tax or as the treasurers also. So Pradeshika collected the tax, Rajuka performed the function of modern day Tehsildar or revenue officer, and Yukta was a treasurer. Next, moving into the another important topic in the administration of Mauryans, district administration. Here, the provinces again from the central kingdom and from the central is divided into provinces. Again, the provinces are dividing into Janapadas. Like we can take as an example of India as a whole country from their 28 states, and in 28 states also different district. You can correlate this concept with our present society. The provinces were divided into district called Janapadas. Their administration was looked after by Pradeshika, Rajuga, and Yukta. This is an important point. So you can expect a different types of questions for your examination from the administration. So all these officials and their duties also important. And administration of cities. The head of the city was called Nagaradesha, and city administration looked after by a committee of 30 members. And what about their revenue system or their taxation policy? The land revenue was the chief source of income in the Mauryan Empire. It was 1/6 and 1/4 of the produce. So the land revenue was considered as the most important source of revenue, and it was 1/6 and 1/4 of the produce. There were two kinds of taxes, namely Bali and Baha. This is very important. Bali and Baha are mentioned in the edicts of Ashoka, and I feel there are some questions related to this different kinds of taxes also. And Baha was levied an agricultural produce, and Bali was a religious tribute. These two taxes mentioned in the edicts of Ashoka, so that it's very important from the revenue system. And from the revenue collected, the state provide various facilities like roads, irrigation, hospitals, and met other expenses of the state. Like the contemporary society, how they are collecting the taxes from the citizens that they are using for the development of the country. The same thing it's happened in Mauryan administration also. They collected the tax from the people. There were two different taxes, Bali and Baha. Mostly it was mentioned in the edicts of Ashoka, and by collecting this revenue, they provided various facilities like roads, irrigation, hospitals, and met other expenses also. Next, we are moving into the another level of Mauryan's administration, the spy system. So still every countries are having their spy system. Our intelligence agencies are playing this role in contemporary or in this present society. Chandragupta had a wide network of spies in his empire. The king was always kept informed of working of a bureaucracy. That means that if there any conspiracy related to the king or some other any other problems also, it was informed by this spy system or the spies all over his empire. He appointed the spies for the well-being of the citizen as well as for the good administration also. And military administration is the another important point. The king was the commander in chief of the army, and we have seen in other module also in the central administration. The Mauryans had a well recruitment policy, and after Ashoka only, after the Kalinga war only, the military power reduced. Before that, Chandragupta Maurya's and Bindusara's time, there was a well recruitment policy and well trained army also. The soldiers were paid in cash. This is one of the another important privilege. And the Mauryan king had built fort as strategic places for safety and security of the empire. So these are the few points related to the military administration. After the administration, from the syllabus part, Ashoka's Dhamma is another important question. What do you mean by Ashoka's Dhamma? After the Kalinga war, Ashoka became the people's king. And we have seen the consequences of a Kalinga war in the personal life as well as in the administration. He embraced Buddhism, but he did not impose on his subject. He wanted his subjects to follow, such as Dhamma, that may be based on the unifying principle of all major religions of the world. The Dhamma, as described in Ashoka edicts, it's an important point. Ashoka's edicts, what about Dhamma, or it's what it's mentioned about Dhamma? It is not a religion or a religious system. It's a very important point. It's not a religion or not a religious system, but a moral law, a common code of conduct or an ethical order, which is common meeting ground of all religion. This is known as what Ashoka's Dhamma. It's not a religion. It was not a religious system, but it's a moral law, a common code of conduct, or an ethical order. Everyone can follow that, which is the meeting ground of all religion. This is the importance of Ashoka's Dhamma. Next, what are the principles of this Dhamma? Ashoka's Dhamma has the following salient points: respect to elders and love to children, ahimsa or non-violence, good deeds or good karma would give happiness to man in the next birth. He taught people to respect all religions. He disapproved empty rituals, because as we declared Buddhism as the state religion, and these points are related to the Buddhist philosophy or the principles. This is what the principles of Dhamma or the principles of Ashoka's Dhamma. Next, what was the impact of Dhamma on Ashoka's imperial policy? Is another question. He embraced Buddhism. He put forward his own Dhamma, and the salient principles also said. And what was the impact of this Ashoka's Dhamma on his empire or in his imperial policy? The first point is it's brought a religious unity. People belonging to different religions followed their emperor's policies of religious tolerance. The principle itself is mentioned. He asked the people or advised the people to be religious tolerant. And it embedded a moral values. People under the influence of Dhamma started living a moral life. End of crimes. The policy of ahimsa did have a great moral impact on people. Theft, crimes, and other such activities almost came to an end just because of this principles of Ashoka's Dhamma. And the last point is public welfare. With the policy of conquest and wars having come to an end, Ashoka's Dhamma helped the officials to undertake public welfare and public war schemes. This resulted in prosperity and helped the people to lead a peaceful life. This is one of the major points. After the Kalinga War, he abandoned the war. After that, the conquest over. So all the officials and the emperor, he himself has concentrated in the prosperity and the public welfare. This resulted in the prosperity and helped the people to lead a peaceful life in Ashoka's empire. Let's see a quick recap of this lesson. So we started with the introduction. Mauryan Empire was founded in 4th century BC by Chandragupta Maurya, and after that Bindusara and Ashoka. And then we have seen important sources. Arthashastra is one of the important source. From the literary source, it was written by Kaudilya or Chanakya. It was in a Sanskrit language. And next literary sources are Indica. It was written by Megasthenes. He was a Greek ambassador at the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Then we have seen the archaeological sources in Mauryan history, and we have two important archaeological sources: Edicts of Ashoka and Sanchi Stupa. We already discussed the important points of Sanchi Stupa and the Edicts of Ashoka. And Ashoka's life is also one of the most important, or Ashoka is the most important figure in Mauryan administration. After the Kalinga War, there was a change in Ashoka's political life as well as his personal life. The consequences we have seen here, and many consequences after the Kalinga War, it reflected in the life of personal life and the political life of Ashoka. After that, we have seen the administration of Mauryan Empire, central administration we have seen, as well as what we have seen the provincial administration, district administration, and their revenue system, and the military administration also. And the next point is about the Ashoka's Dhamma. What is Ashoka's Dhamma? It was a common code of conduct or the ethical order. And what were the principles of Dhamma? That there are 5 points are given here. That is also very important. And what was the impact of Ashoka's Dhamma on the imperial policy? That is also mentioned here. So thank you for being here. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and if it's useful for your friends, you can share and keep watching. Thank you so much once again.